joining our session today, your Fast Track to Enterprise Mobility webinar. I want to give a few updates on the housekeeping, as we say. We will leave time for questions at the end of the session, so please use the chat area to post your questions. I want to check also if you have issues hearing us or seeing the screen. Please write us also on the chat and we will check that. All right, so let's get started. This is our agenda. So I'm Tanya Amar, Vice President for Global Marketing. With me today on the session, Yuval Lavi, Vice President for Corporate Professional Services and Support. Yuval Asheri, Vice President for Technical Product Management and Community Relations. And Ludovic Robin, Director of Product Marketing. Our agenda, we will start talking about the challenges for mobile app projects by Yuval Lavi. And then we'll have a high-level introduction to Magic. I know you're all Magic customers, but we'll go through some of the latest updates of our products. And then we look at some examples of mobile app projects and some that we've done for our customers already. You might have seen that we announced recently the release soon of our Magic Accelerator framework. So we'll give a few words of introduction to the framework and then a demo. And we'll end up with conclusions and tips before we take your questions. Let me check that looks like you all see us properly. So I will continue. Let me check just before we start. Okay, it looks like you can hear us okay and see us okay. So I'll move on to Yuval for the mobile app challenges.
Okay. Hi guys, for those of you that it's morning, good morning. I wanted to share with you some challenges that we faced through projects that we did with our customers over the last 2 to 3 years, starting or looking at the mobile application for business, which is a little bit different than the mobile application for an end user or commercial user. We have a few other challenges coming into an enterprise when we're looking at the mobile applications. One of the things that we see is that this market is dynamic and fast evolving, much more than we ever knew before. Okay? And this is something that for a lot of big organizations that are used to work in a methodological way of committees and making decisions and looking at things and investigating. At this point, I think one of the challenges is to work in an agile mode, not only the development but also the decision making of how to move forward, what to make as our basic tool. Okay, none of the decisions that evolve around mobile should be what we call the strategic decision. Okay, we are going to want to make a decision, move forward, start working with it, and then if we need to make changes, we'll make changes. Another point that we saw, since we are talking about enterprise mobility, we do have legacy data, we do have legacy application, we need to connect to our backend software and systems, and this is something that will require a lot of synchronization, a lot of integration, and we must see that things are secure. If the security in the process of moving the data or security on the device itself, using MDM tools or anything else that make sure that at the end of the day, I'm not having any breach of security with our enterprise information. This is something very important in the enterprise mobility. Performance and offline, again, we do have a lot of layers in the process. We do have a lot of data that we are bringing and moving between the device and the organization. and we need to make sure that performance will still be as good as any other client or standalone application on the mobile. This is why we see that in a lot of places we are starting to work with offline or local storage of the database and then doing synchronization to the server itself. This is, again, a challenge that we need to think of in advance once we want to look at the mobile application. Short delivery and lifespan. If we are used to, in the enterprise, building an application, and this application will be alive for 5 years, maybe 10 years, or even some of you have applications that are 15 years old. In the mobile industry, the mobile enterprise, we look at the life cycle of an application or a lifespan of an application around a year. A year after the application went live, it will probably die. Okay, and it's not because we did a bad job. This is just the industry. This is just the concept. Machine, device will be different. Operating system will be different. Methodologies, concept. Okay, so it's nothing bad. We just need to adjust ourselves to the short delivery cycles and to the short lifespan of an application. And the last thing that is very, very important, and we see it as a big challenge, is the user experience and the user intuitive of the application. Again, we don't have the luxury anymore to come to our customer and say, hey, this is what we need you to work with, and please work with this application. Most of the solutions that we build today for mobile will be based on the device from the user itself, what we call bring your own device. And since we are hosting our application on his environment, on the user environment, we need to adjust ourselves to his environment and not the other way around. So even though we are the enterprise, still we need to adjust ourselves to the experience that the end user will have, much more than we ever needed to do in the past. So those are the main challenges that we are coming to enterprise mobility. And this is something that as an organization we need to think of in advance and to be ready and to see how we face those challenges. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Yuval. So we'll move on now, talking about complexity. With Yuval Asheri, we will see how Magic has been dealing with easing the complexity in the IT environment for the last 30 years. Yuval?
Hi, everybody. Since you're all Magic veterans, I'd just like to remind us all of what Magic has been offering us looking back at these last, 30 years. So we'll just go over that again to remind ourselves what we have in our hands. First of all, Magic, we're dealing with the general paradigm here. We're business-centric, meaning we want the programmer or the designer to deal with the logic itself, the what and not the how. I'm sure you're all familiar with that idea. We try to keep things as simple as possible. We deal with tasks, and all the programmer has to do is define the data view, define the event-driven logic, and the user interface. So things are kept simple and clear, and dealing less with the syntax issues and so forth. We're a metadata platform, meaning once you've written your application, the end result is a set of XML files, which is the metadata. And it's actually being executed by our precompiled engines. Whether we're talking about the server side or the client side or the mobile side, everything has to do with precompiled code that's been written by us and only deals with reading your XML files, your metadata, and executing the right piece of code, thus actually executing your application. We're scalable. You can take Magic, and if your application starts out with a few users, you can just enlarge it to whatever amount you need by using more engines and, of course, using more licenses. Future-proof. We've started out with client-server a few years back and moved on to web and merge applications, which you all are familiar with. And we moved on to rich internet applications, and now we're there with mobile apps. So it's not only a question of new operating systems, new databases, and so on. We're ready for any new architecture that comes onto the market, and we're actually adding more and more channels and offerings to our product. So we're offering now today desktop applications, mobile, web. Everything is there with one tool set, one skill set that the programmers need in order to develop all kinds of applications. And we've seen lots of our customers offer a few kinds of applications. They offer client-server applications, they offer web and mobile, all within the same organization, but different user interfaces. Just having a look at the architecture, we have the internet somewhere out there, and we have our clients, which can be the desktop or mobile or any kind of browser. And in the back end, we have our enterprise servers and, of course, integration servers, which means that if you want to take your mobile app and you need more integration power, we all know Magic XPI, which can bring another offering to the table and combine it with your mobile app. I'll walk you through what we did in the last few years since we came out with version 2. We're going back to July 2011 when the product was called Unipass, if any of you remember. We came out with changing the UI in online tasks. We changed from Win32 to .NET, which of course gave us the ability to integrate with .NET assemblies and .NET controls in online tasks and client-server applications. This was a major step for us with this new offering. In 2012, mid-2012, we first came out with Android and iOS mobile clients. Up until then, all we had was BlackBerry and Windows Mobile clients. So we came out with Android and iOS, and since then, we've been improving these clients to be more robust, more native, with more capabilities as we move along. And of course, we started adding more capabilities to the .NET offering by allowing binding to a variable. This was the first step. Just a month after that, we actually rebranded our product line. Unipass was rebranded and renamed the Magic XPA. So this was an important step in the history of our tool. We came out in 2013 with Magic XPA 2.3, allowing some more capabilities with .NET binding. We came out with a requester for .NET, which means that any .NET application could actually call a Magic application through a .NET requester and actually bind with existing .NET applications. And like I said, we enhanced our mobile clients as we went along. Coming up to Magic XPA 2.4, where we came out with offline support. This was a request from the field to be able to work with our mobile clients without the need to go to the server to run logic or to access data. So this was done at the end of 2013. We also added the ability to actually write data on the mobile through a SQLite database, which exists on all mobile platforms. We provided a very important function that allows you to synchronize data from the server to the client or from the client to the server. The function is called data view to data source, which added simplicity to the whole syncing story between the client and the server. We added an option to test directly on Android devices that are connected to your desktop. So there's actually no need to use an emulator when you deal with Android. We added push notifications and so forth. Reaching the last step, which was just 2 months ago, we released Magic XPA 2.5, and the highlights there were basically lots of improvements regarding the UX features on mobile devices. Came out with lots and lots of improvements there, allowing you to write very, very neat, new, and modern mobile apps. And of course, we also improved sync capabilities as we went along. So this is actually a picture of what went on in the last 3 years, more or less.
Thank you, Yuval. So now we want to look at some concrete examples of what our customers have been doing with this technology. Ludovic Rubin will present some typical mobile applications that we can see in the market and some examples.
Thanks, Tanya. So actually the most popular enterprise applications that we have seen have one or two main business goals. Probably the first one is to improve the user productivity, and the second one is to improve the overall business operational efficiency. The most popular application that we have seen is probably the mobile CRM application, giving access to the salespeople to their CRM system, and improving the customer view they have on their customers. The second main application that we have seen is the field services application, meaning that you can manage work orders on the fly, on the go, without any manual data entry. And this is all part of what we call paperless processes. So there is a lot of application on field services, for field services. Inventory management applications, warehouse management applications are also quite popular in order to manage better inventory on hand, in shipment, and on order, for example. Time management applications are also very popular to eliminate manual payroll processing. Job management, for example, are also very popular for consultants, for project managers, to make sure that projects are completed on time. Asset management application and general workflow approval management applications are also quite popular. So I would like to give a concrete example of what we did for one of our existing customers in the US, called Boston Medical Center. BMC is a very large medical center in the Boston area, with more than 5,000 full-time employees, more than 200 technicians. And what BMC was looking for was to improve the efficiency of their technicians that are going on site to repair equipment and solve the faults on this equipment. So actually they had to manage urgent work orders, but also scheduled work orders. The second business goal that BMC had was to enable their hospital staff to initiate and monitor service calls, and to have the status of every call in real time. So when turning these business challenges into actually technical implementation, we faced for them and they faced the first challenge was to develop a multi-channel and multi-platform solution. Multi-platform meaning that they had already a client-server application and they wanted to mobilize their existing processes. So the first difficult part was to be able to mobilize these processes. It took them, and it took us a few weeks to do it, to define and implement it. The second main step was to go from iOS to Android. They started to develop for iOS and then decided to extend it to Android. And it took them a week or 2 weeks to do it. So it was quite fast. The second main technical challenge they had was the management aspect of it. So there was at this time no device control, no device management solution. So we talked to them, we discussed MDM solutions, and they decided to go for our MDM solution. And the last challenge that they started we started to develop an online solution, and then of course offline came up, 2.4 came up, and obviously offline support was a must-have for them. So at the end, we helped them to eliminate thousands of manual work orders per day, which was a huge improvement. The mobile application was developed and deployed in a few weeks, and now they are going to the next one, next mobile app for time management. So how did we do it for them? So actually we use our end-to-end enterprise mobility solution, basically Magic XPA for application development and deployment, Magic XPI for process integration, Magic MDM to manage and monitor mobile devices, and we use also our professional services to implement the solution. So we cover the end-to-end life cycle of the application.
Okay, thank you, Ludo. On top of the application platform for mobility, we have recently announced the addition of the Accelerator framework. Yuval Lavi will present why we highly recommend our customers to use the framework, and we'll have a small demo to show you what we mean by framework. Yuval.
Okay, guys, it's me again. Those of you who know me, you know that I'm a freak of standards, methodologies, framework, design patterns, and all those stuff that make life much easier. So let's see why we decided that really, again, in the mobile enterprise solution, we do need to have a framework. Obviously, once we started to develop a few projects, we saw that a lot of things are repeating themselves. We have the same challenges, the same issues that we need to deal, to solve, and to implement on our mobile platform in order to provide the solution. So we thought, okay, let's see how we encapsulate those challenges and put them into one standard solution. As we said, we are expected to deliver apps within a very short time frame. Okay, so anything that we can save on time as far as design, develop, testing, any little bit of time that we can save in the process and the complexity will help us, because really now time is a big factor in our process. And we're expected to deliver apps within a modern and intuitive user experience, and as we know, this is something that a lot of time is very complicated for a developer. Although we are developers are trying to be very creative, sometimes as far as user interface we are creating some catastrophe. So it's really to have a set of predefined standards and look and feel will make life much easier as far as the outcome, and again will save time because of the fact that that we don't have the need to make a decision in the process of development. We're just using predefined modules and features that we already had defined before. So if we can overcome these challenges, we can create mobile apps without compromise. So let's talk a little bit about framework. Okay, what is a framework and what do we make sure that we have in a framework? A framework is something that is coming to look at some vertical features, some vertical solution that we need, we know that in the enterprise, a business process will most probably go through different parts of the vertical parts of our enterprise applications. But still, over those verticals, we see that we have repetitive blocks that are actually common to different verticals. So we extracted those blocks to the side, made them a framework, made them talk in the same language, make them work flawlessly in the same environment. And this is how we ended up with a nice framework, which is not only the code, it's also the methodology. When I say a framework, it's not only a set of components. It's not only a set of pre-built features. It's also methodology, documentation, standards, and actually putting you and directing you in the right way and how to move forward in those complicated and challenges of enterprise mobility. Okay, so this is the idea or the frame of mind behind creating a framework. Now let's see if I can show you a little bit of the runtime and explain to you what we did in the framework accelerator. I will need to be a presenter for a minute. Let's see, show my screen. Okay, now do we know if, yeah, I guess you see my screen. Okay, so after we did a login, which a login is also a component from the framework, whoops, as you can see, you're seeing my device moving as I speak. So we skipped a part of the login, but the login is also a component that is giving us the option of doing the login, logging into the application in offline, synchronizing my rights and stuff like that. The next step is what we call the application panel. This is what you see in front of you. This is kind of a menu, but it's not only a menu. It's a panel that user can customize. If I press on the menu on the button, you see that I have the option of edit panel, which I can go and actually change the look and feel of this panel to my own design. This is a very important part in the mobile solution, that the user actually can customize the behavior of the application however he wants. Keep in mind, it needs to be personal. We want to give the personal feeling to our end user. Another thing that we see here, and by the way, this panel you can edit from a management console. You can create the number of buttons that you want on the screen from 2, 4, 6, or 8. You can change icon, you can change background, you can change color. You can do anything that you want with this panel. As you see here, I'm using 6-button panel with the color of transparency and a background image that I can see from behind. Now, once I'm pressing one of the buttons, I'm actually stepping into my next screen. As you can see, part of the new feature that we have is the animation of the screen, which is sliding from the right at this point. I can select my customer, and the beauty of it that actually I want to select a customer, but I pressed on the customer, I selected the customer. The system knows that I want to select a project, so it will present me with the project list now. And now I'm selecting the project, and I have the information of the customer and the project, and then I see a detailed information inside. I can go into one of the records. I can change time. Okay, so I have a time picker, which is now very easy to set in the new version. Okay. And I can save my information, keep on seeing the animation of the screen. Another feature that we have in the framework accelerator is the graph. We want to present a lot of information in a nice UI, a comfortable presentation, and one of it is graph, and not only graph, but also dynamic graph that I can interact with. So I have a nice animation. I can actually take my finger and slide it down, and then I can see the information. If I want, I can catch the event of pressing this slice and do something with it in my application. I can present my application in a bar instead of a pie. Now, the beauty again of those bars, that all the design of it, since we are using a third-party freeware, which is called an AM chart, you can go to the website and you have an online editor for the chart. You can design whatever you want as far as the look and feel of the chart, copy the relevant code to the framework management screen, and then your chart will look the same as you designed it on the web. So again, easiness, changeable, agile, this is the things that we are seeing in front of our face when we're thinking about framework. Now, if I'll go to another picture, you see that we have the slide menu that is sliding from the left, or what some of the industry people call it the hamburger menu. I can go to my audit screen, which is again another feature in the framework that I can audit the information of the system that the user is running, the device, the size, the type, everything. And I can also audit my application in the process. If I'll step out of this screen, I can go to a customer location screen, and we introduced what we call a location service component, which has to do with everything about location, GPS connectivity. For instance, here I want to see the route from the Magic office in the US, okay, to a location of one of the employees' house. I can actually see it with the direction. And I can create at least what we call a standard table with image. Okay, again, this is just one definition, and you can change the picture, you can change the text in it, but the look and feel of this screen will always stay the same, and of course you can control the different colors and fonts. So I think this is pretty much covering the runtime environment of the framework. We can go back to the slides. Okay, yeah. Okay, show my screen. Nice. Give it another click. No, on the slide panel. Okay, another one. Okay, so what we saw is that actually we have an application panel that can be customized. We have the login option with the including offline. We have the chart. We have the select window component, and we have the slide menu and the audit trail, and the location services and table with images and the location services. We have a component that it's basically a background component, but managing all the synchronization. We have a sync component giving you synchronization features. And as a framework, it's a live entity. It will continue to grow based on your need, based on the enterprise customer need, and we'll release version after version of this framework. Okay, so this is something very important that we think that should be used and should be implemented. The framework itself will come out to the market at the beginning of next month, and you can connect your local representative, your local account manager. From the commercial point of view, at this point, we are doing some kind of a promotion process, so there is no charge for the framework itself, but it will include a separate license. But for the detailed information, please contact your account manager and your local branch. They'll give you all the information around that and how you can start working with it and what you need to do in order to implement that. Okay, so we did see what happened around the mobile industry and around Magic industry and mobility in the last 3 years, I would say. We had a lot of challenges, I think, for all of us, not only for Magic as a platform provider, but for us developers that need to provide solutions to our end users. And I think from my point of view, my experience in the last 25 years of writing enterprise solutions, the mobile is really the first time that I see that we have new challenges, that we actually need to think different than the way we thought before about solutions. Client server, SQL databases, web, it was a little bit changes, but the same concept. Mobile, the situation is totally different. after my first mobile application that I developed, the reaction was very bad, and I was very surprised as why. And then I realized that actually what I did is took a desktop application and just developed it on a small screen. And this is not a mobile application. A mobile application is a totally different experience, and this is the thing that we need to focus on. So if I'll summarize and try and give you some tips from my experience that you should try and look forward. First, focus your application on one task. Again, a mobile application is not like a typical application when you have an application that is doing a lot of things. If you look at your mobile, you can see that you have a mail application and you have a calendar application. Two different applications, okay? It's not one office application that is doing both. So keep in mind that you need to focus your mobile application to one task and make sure that it's doing this one task in a very, very good way. Each step in the mobile app creation lifecycle should be very short. Again, we need to work very fast in order to provide the application because the lifespan, the life cycle is very short, and if you make a decision, if you take 6 months to make a decision of what you want to do with the mobile, you'll probably have the wrong decision because in a year or 6 months, once from the starting point, industry will change. Okay, so just make sure that you make fast decision and move forward. If we're talking about enterprise mobility, we'll always talk about integration. We'll always need to connect to some kind of back office system, database, and stuff like that. It needs to be thought of in advance. It needs to be thought of the first step of the mobile solution. If you just run and build the code with some company, some team that is not thinking about the end system or the legacy system, once you try to connect, you see that performance is not good, the data is not in the same structure, or whatever. We do need to do a good decoupling, but we need to think about those things in advance. Work with pre-built features. You can work with widget, with framework, with component, work with whatever, but don't redevelop things in each project from scratch because it will take a long time. It will have a lot of bugs, and you will leave the child diseases, as I call them, in each and every project. And this is something that you want to avoid once you're starting a project. Intuitive user experience is something, again, that is very important. There is a trend that we call the user-centered design. You can look at it in Wikipedia and the other places in the internet. Users are having much more influence on the way we need to develop our applications than ever before. It's not just something that, oh, we want to be nice to our customers and make a nice user interface. It's a mandatory, okay? It's something that if it will not be good enough, the user will just not use it, okay? So this is something very important. And again, in any development, put into what we call the design patterns, okay? If you look at the definition of a design pattern, which is a general reusable solution to a commonly occurring problem, this is actually what we want to have. We want to define the recurring problems or challenges and come with a commonly reusable solution. Okay, so think about it, work with it, and hey, we are here to work together. So thank you.
Okay, thank you very much to our speakers. We want to move on to the questions. I'll take the first question. I have an existing client-server Magic application. How much effort is needed to make a mobile version of it? Who wants to take it?
Yeah. Again, the challenge of taking an existing application, if we look at the different steps that we have in developing an application, we can see that if I have an existing application, I can skip some of the steps in the process. Some of it will be the logic of the business, okay, which I can just expose business logic. If it's batch processing already, I can even reuse the code. I know my database structure. Now I'm just left with how I want to present the application on the mobile. Which part of the application I'm taking to the mobile? It's not the whole application that should go to the mobile. Okay, I need to think very carefully what actually task I want to provide on the mobile, and it's okay to take one client-server application and actually create 10 different mobile applications. Again, of course, they will all communicate together. They'll be part of one framework of your application. But at the end of the day, you don't need to think about it as one application on the mobile, and you should reuse as many pieces of code as you can in batch processing, in database access. All those stuff will stay the same.
Okay. Another question, is Magic already compatible with iOS 8? How do, let's start with this maybe.
Okay. iOS 8 was released 2-3 days ago, and from our tests so far we see that our existing mobile clients from 2.5 work with this operating system. So we will come out with an official statement in the next few days. If there will be a need, and again this is an if, then we will release a new client that supports this new OS by Apple. But at this stage, we don't see the need. In any case, each operating system that comes out for mobile devices and so on, we will always make sure that we are able to work with the new operating systems.
Okay. One more question maybe for Yuval Lavi. In general, how much effort is needed for front-end development compared to back-end for an enterprise app?
Okay. So again, if you're using existing application that you already have, you can reuse quite a lot of the logic and the code that you have. It will reduce the amount of effort that you need to do on the back end. If not, there is quite a challenge of working on the back end, because, as I mentioned, any enterprise mobile application will communicate with legacy system, either something like Salesforce or SAP, or your own legacy application that you develop. Saying that, there is quite a challenge of working on the mobile. Again, this is something new for most of us, and this is something, like I said, that we need to think in a different way. We need to design the screen in a different way, so there is a challenge as well there. So I would say that depending on your situation and what you want to expose, but typically you have a lot of challenge using or implementing the backend services, and a few screens, like 4 or 5 screens, that this would probably be your mobile application, and the one that is running on client will take time, much more than it will take you if you develop it on a regular client server that we all know. Okay, so the effort of creating a client side is a big effort as opposed to what we are used to in the client-server environment. Okay, but again, you can say it's half and half, but those two parts should get their respectable time and importance in the process.
Okay, one last question. If you want to ask a question, it's now, so we'll take that last one, but if you have one more, we can take it. If I want to extend my application functionalities with the new APIs provided by the new mobile OS, should I submit again the app onto app stores?
Okay, in general, mind you that our product is metadata based. So when you write your application, the result is a set of metadata files. You don't need to upload the client to the App Store again. Our generic client knows how to retrieve the new metadata and download it to the client in order to run the new logic that you wrote. The only reason that you would resubmit your application to the App Store would be because you changed your Splash, for instance, or you added native code of your own that doesn't exist in our generic client and you changed it. But in general, the answer is no, you don't need to reload your app to the App Store.
Okay, thank you very much. So I don't see any more questions. This webinar will be available on demand on our website, and thank you very much for joining. See you to our next sessions.